Hello there, Dragonfire here. I wanted to do a special musical rundown and particularly focus in on one certain song. But before we get there, we have to understand what led up to the song. So, the band I'm looking at today is the band Blues Traveler. So, um, we have here, excuse me for a second, okay. I want to make sure I get this right. Okay, so their debut album came out in 1990, and it was this here, their self-titled album, Blues Traveler. And you can see up in the corner there, um, their cat. That cat drawing there becomes kind of a logo for the band. But anyway, this is their self-titled debut album for Blues Traveler, and this came out in 1990. The Blues Traveler is a different kind of band. As you can guess, they've got some blues elements to their music, like their name suggests, but they just have a very different type of feel to them. They do harmonica solos. The lead singer, in particular, John Popper, does harmonica solos, and they mix that in with some guitar and some drums and stuff. And they have an interesting style to them, which uh, didn't necessarily transfer over into popular culture that well. And the band, particularly the lead singer, doesn't look like the typical guy that you might try to sell for a band. No, there's no picture on the back of this first album, but when the record label is looking to try to grow the band and try to sell it and stuff, um, they didn't have the typical rock star type looks or anything like that. The lead singer, John Popper, is quite a bit overweight, or was at the time. And so they weren't necessarily the most marketable band, but they're an interesting band that has their own style. Most popular music doesn't have harmonica and stuff like that, but John Popper can play the harmonica the way many people play a guitar. It's really quite interesting. This is their second album here. This is 1991's Travelers and Thieves. And I think that's some beautiful artwork on the front cover there. So 1991, and I believe that they had maybe one or two kind of minor hits, songs that got a little bit of radio play here and there. I think they shot a music video for one of their songs that played on MTV, but they really weren't getting over as a band. They weren't popular as you might expect. They had some trouble with marketing. So in 1993, they released their third studio album, Save His Soul. Now this is the first one to feature a picture of the band, so I'll show you right there. There's the picture of the band there on the cover, and you can see that John, the guy with the cowboy hat on, he's a bit overweight, and not this band. I think there was a lot of conversations between the record labels and the band that they weren't very marketable, and they hadn't really had a big hit song. And they were doing well enough. They were making enough money that they could keep putting out albums and stuff. It's not like they were losing money, but they were getting enough of an audience to sell enough albums to make money, but they weren't reaching a mass market. And then in 1994, for their fourth studio album, they released the album 4. Now, you notice that it returns to that drawing of that cat smoking a cigarette from their first album, kind of their mascot at this point, and their most recognizable symbol um, for the band. Here you can see from their first album. It's kind of a drawing. It's the same drawing. It's just colored in a little bit more. And so, interesting that they reused that old logo that they hadn't used since their first album, and they just colored it in, but they reused that. And so this is the album 4. Now, if you've heard of Blues Traveler and you're not a big fan of theirs, you probably might recognize the 2 big hit songs off this album, because this is when Blues Traveler finally broke it big. They had their biggest hit, I believe, with the song Runaround. I believe that was the bigger of the 2 hits. And this is a song I remember hearing on the radio back in the 90s. And now on the song Runaround has a theme to it. It talks about lying, and this person giving this other person the runaround. So on the surface, when you look at the song Runaround, you probably would think that Runaround is a song about 2 people in a romantic relationship. Maybe one of them is not as committed to the relationship as the other. There's something funny, something fishy going on, and that's why it's why you gotta give me the runaround. It's a surefire way to speed things up when all it does is slow me down. Oh, why you gotta give me the runaround? So there's lyrics in here about lying and so forth too. And costing the relationship probably. So it seems like it's about a relationship between 2 people. But I'd actually like to offer another, a little bit different interpretation. What if it was actually about the relationship between the band and the record company? The record company, of course, wanted to make as much money as possible, and they want Blues Traveler to put out a big hit song. And I'm sure there was many discussions between the record label and the band about trying to create a hit and stuff, and they were able to do that. They were able to create a successful song with the song Runaround. But Blues Traveler, I think, like many people who are inclined to create art, I think that they were looking at their music as an art form and not necessarily wanting to go commercial and have the biggest success and the wide audience appeal. They had their fans, and they were probably pretty happy with that. And so I think that they seem to have created the song Runaround as proof that they could create something successful. And at the same time, though, while it does seem to be a song maybe about a relationship between 2 people, or even the relationship between the band and the record company, it also contains some lyrics that just seem to be nonsensical. Like in one of the verses, he says stuff like, I like coffee and I like tea. I'd like to be able to enter a final plea. You know, it just seems to just go together because it rhymes. And like, why in the middle of the song are you talking about liking coffee and liking tea? That doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. And so um, it seems to be making a point about you can make a hit song without actually having to have the song um, make sense. And I'll get to a little bit more of that later, but first I want to talk about the music video for Run Around. So, when you get to the music video, there's a Wizard of Oz theme going on. So you have a setup where you have these people who dressed up to go out to a concert, but if you're paying close attention, one of them is clearly Dorothy, and one is the Tin Man, one is the Lion, one is the Scarecrow, whatever. You have all the characters from the Wizard of Oz, and so they're trying to get into this concert, and they don't. I don't know if one of them didn't have ID, like the Dorothy girl wasn't old enough to get in, or maybe they didn't have the right tickets or something. Anyway, they get denied into the concert, and then they end up going around the building and sneaking in the back door, and they see the band up on stage, and they're playing the song. It's this song, Run Around, by Blues Traveler, but it's not the Blues Traveler band that's playing it. Instead, it's this band that looks, I would say, a whole lot more what a 1994 band is supposed to look like. A commercially successful 1994 band is supposed to look like. And then some of the characters, Dorothy and whatever, they go to the side or whatever, and they peek around the curtain, and they actually see in the background um, that Blues Traveler is actually really playing the song in the background, and the band in front of the curtain isn't really playing their instruments. They're just lip syncing and lip singing and syncing up, but they're not really singing. They're not really playing the instruments. The real band is behind the curtain, kind of like the Wizard of Oz theme again, of like the real guy controlling it was behind the big curtain, and he was just controlling a giant machine that created this facade of the Wizard of Oz. When Dorothy finally gets to the wizard at the end of the movie, she finds out the wizard isn't really this big grandiose thing. He's just this little man behind the curtain. And so that's what happens. And so I think what the music video shows is that it's the contrast between who the band really is and the band that the record label wants them to be. And now that brings me to the second biggest hit that Blues Traveler ever had, and the second hit from this album. And the song is called Hook, just Hook, 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 alright? And this one also had a music video, and boy is it fantastic. You have the band singing the whole time, but in the music video there's lip syncing there's a beauty pageant. There's a guy watching TV. He turns on the beauty pageant, and the beauty pageant contestants are singing the song, and he turns the channel, and then it goes to a politician in a scene that looks a lot like Citizen Kane, the movie, and the politician is singing the song and all this kind of stuff, and it really goes well with the theme. So and you do all this stuff, and it's a really cool music video. It has Paul Schaefer in it, who was who was the leader of the band on the Tonight Show for many years with Jay Leno. Jay Leno was the host of the Tonight Show. It's a pretty cool music video. Definitely check it out. It's one of my favorite music videos of all time. But I wanted to read you here the lyrics for Hook, and I'll just say this, that the music itself is taken from an old classical song. So classical music that's hundreds of years old, like Bach and Beethoven and stuff like that, is of course, under public domain, it's copyright free, so you can't, you can use it whenever you want. But they're playing this old classic symphony music with modern instruments and with the regular band instruments, and so they're using like a proven musical number already that they know people like, and they're just changing it up ever so slightly, putting it on new instruments and singing new words to the song. Okay, so this is the song Hook. I'm going to read you the lyrics here. I might even sing them. It doesn't matter what I say, so long as I sing with inflection that makes you feel I've conveyed some inner truth or vast reflection. But I've said nothing so far, and I can keep it up as long as it takes. And it don't matter who you are. If I'm doing my job, it's your resolve that breaks, 'cause the hook brings you back. I ain't telling you no lie. The hook brings you back. On that you can rely. Okay, so if you're not familiar with the term hook, the hook is just used as a part of a song that draws you in. Literally, it like hooks you and pulls you in like a fishing hook, like you're going fishing. It's used sometimes to describe that part of the song, and it's usually the chorus. So sometimes people, you hear people singing along, they don't know the lyrics to a song, but once they get to the chorus, everybody knows the chorus, right? And literally, this is a chorus about the chorus. It's the chorus about the hook. Again, so it's because the hook brings you back. I ain't telling you no lie. The hook brings you back. On that you can rely. And so he just got done telling you that what he sings in the verses doesn't matter. He's just going to draw you in with the hook. In other words, he's telling you and the record label and everybody else he knows how to write a hit song, and he can do it anytime he wants. He wasn't making his music to make hit songs. He was making his music to express himself creatively and with his own art. He didn't have to make a hit song, but he did. Okay. Here's the second verse. There is something amiss. I am being insincere. In fact, I don't mean any of this. Still, my confession draws you near. To confuse the issue, I'll refer to familiar heroes from long ago. No matter how much Peter loved her, what way the pan refused to grow was that the hook brings you back. I ain't telling you no lie. The hook brings you back. On that you can rely. So did you notice what he did there? He says, I'm going to refer to familiar heroes from long ago. He's gonna bring you in with that. He's gonna bring you in with the familiar heroes from long ago. So what does he do? He basically tells a dad joke about Peter Pan. No matter how much Peter loved her, the pan No matter how much Peter loved her, what made the pan refuse to grow was that the hook brings you back. So it's because Peter Pan wanted to keep fighting Captain Hook that he neglected to ever really come and continue his potentially romantic relationship with Wendy. You know, the feelings that he had, you know, that young love that he had for Wendy, but he wasn't ready to grow up. He was still a kid, and he'd rather keep fighting Captain Hook. He'd rather be, you know, in the game fighting the bad pirates than come back. And I know that yes, this joke gets probably more and more funny the more I explain it. Yeah, so I know jokes tend to get funnier the more you explain them. Yeah, so anyway, but just in case anybody wasn't familiar with the story of Peter Pan. Anyway, um, okay. Now after singing the chorus the second time, um, he goes into almost a rap when he does this part, and he does it fairly fast. I think that the more times you listen to it, the better your ears can tune into it. But the first time you hear it, you're like, whoa, you know. And also, if you know the lyrics, you can kind of pick them out. But sometimes when the first time you hear this, he goes too fast, and you probably won't pick up on it exactly what he said. What did he say? I don't know what he said, but he almost goes into like a rap type deal. But I'll read you the lyrics here. Suck it in, suck it in, suck it in. If you're Rin Tin Tin or Anne Boleyn, make a desperate move or else you'll win. And then begin to see what you're doing to me. This MTV is not for free. It's so PC, it's killing me. So desperately I'll sing to thee of love. Sure, but also rage and hate and pain and fear itself. And I can't keep these feelings on the shelf. I've tried. Well, no, in fact, I lied. Could this be financial suicide? But I've got too much pride inside to hide or slide. I'll do as I decide and let it ride until I've died. And then and only then shall I abide this tide of catchy little tunes, of hip 3-minute ditties. I wanna bust all your balloons. I wanna burn all of your cities to the ground. I've found, well, I will not mess around unless I play, then hey, I will go on all day. Hear what I say. I have a prayer to pray. That's really all this was. And when I'm feeling stuck and need a buck, I don't rely on luck because the hook brings you back. I ain't telling you no lie. The hook brings you back. On that you can rely. Yes. Alright, so let me cover what he does in this verse here. He's already talked, he says, suck it in, suck it in, suck it in, which is might be the way he felt about writing this song. If you're Rin Tin Tin or Anne Boleyn, now he did say earlier he was going to refer to familiar heroes from long ago, but Rin Tin Tin is a fictional dog, and Anne Boleyn is a true historical figure, a real historical figure. The dog, I think Rin Tin Tin is a male, Anne Tin Tin is a female. So, like, these are, you know, you have real versus fictional, you have female versus male, you have a dog versus a human. Rin Tin Tin and Anne Boleyn could not be more different in any way, shape, or form, except for they're both familiar names that you know, the familiar heroes from long ago. Why use these two in particular? Because it rhymes. for no other reason than that. Suck it in, suck it in, suck it in if you're in Tintin or Anne Boleyn. No other reason. It just rhymes. Now, follow the next verse here, the next line here. Make a desperate move or else you'll win. Of course, here, this line makes no sense. It's if you're making a desperate move, a move of desperation. It's doing it so it's your last resort. You're desperate. This is your last resort. That's the last thing you're going to try. You're doing it maybe as the last resort, a desperate move, because it's the only move that might possibly end up in you winning. Right? It's because you don't want to lose. So the phrase should be, make a desperate move or else you'll lose. But here he says, make a desperate move or else you'll win. Why? Because, once again, it rhymes. Suck it in, suck it in, suck it in if you're in Tintin or Anne Boleyn. Make a desperate move or else you'll win. Rin Tin Tin Anne Boleyn. Make a desperate move or else you'll win. So, or else you'll lose is changed to or else you'll win because it sounds better, because it rhymes. Okay. Then in the next phrase, he reveals why he's doing all this. And then you'll begin to see what you're doing to me. This MTV is not for free. In other words, he knows what it takes to be successful in the music business. To get the radio play, get the music video on MTV, get the music, get the music going, and so forth. He knows what he has to do. He knows he has to write this catchy little ditty in order to get on MTV and to get the music playing and to have a hit, successful song. Then the very next line is, it's so PC, it's killing me. Of course, PC is short for politically correct. In other words, he is doing something that he feels he has to do even though he doesn't want to do it. He has to be politically correct in the music industry, so to speak. Even though it's not the way he's really feeling, he kind of plays along with everything. So what will he do? It's so PC, it's killing me. So desperately I'll sing to thee of love, sure, but also rage and hate and pain and fear itself. So it's like he has to write this love song, like Run Around. But in that song that may be about a love relationship, he expresses his pain and anguish and feeling like the relationship is not even, and that one side is giving the other side the runaround, or specifically that he's getting the runaround from the record label. So all of these emotions, the rage and hate and pain and fear itself, is coming out in the song. The very next line, and I can't keep these feelings on the shelf. I've tried, well, no, in fact, I've lied. So it's like he's never really tried to hide his true emotions. He's just putting them out there. And then he states the line, could be financial suicide. In other words, he knows that not doing the things that would make him successful in the music industry could be his own downfall, could be his own financial suicide. But I've got too much pride inside, he says. So in other words, he would rather do the things he wants to do and make the music that he wants to make rather than just going and making the music that would bring him the most financial success. To hide or slide, I'll do as I'll decide and let it ride until I've died. In other words, he's just going to keep living his life and he's going to do whatever he decides to do, and that's the way it's going to be until he dies. The next line then says, and only then shall I abide this tide. In other words, that's the only solution that he has for this conflict is to just keep doing what he wants to do until he dies. The next line says, of catchy little tunes. So this is kind of playing off the previous line, abide this tide. Okay, so abide the tide of catchy little tunes, of hip 3-minute ditties. So, it's like that old thing in the music industry. Songs need to be about 3 minutes long, usually three and some change, under 4 minutes long. So they're little 3-minute ditties. That's what you call the popular songs that get the radio play and stuff. About 3 minutes long. Then the next line says, I want to bust all your balloons. I want to burn all of your cities to the ground. So what's going on here is he's saying, yeah, make these little 3-minute ditties, and they're popular, and they get played on the radio, and everybody loves them. And, but inside it, I don't want to be the people that the record label want me to be. It's like I'd rather pop everybody's balloon. I'd rather deflate them. I'd rather burn all the cities to the ground. Obviously that's hyperbole. I don't think he actually had those violent tendencies, but he's talking about just rather burn the cities to the ground than be what the record label wants him to be. But then the next line he says, I found I will not mess around unless I play them hay. So in other words, he's saying, if I play the city and they like me, I don't want to burn them to the ground, whatever. I was just messing around when I said that, so I'm not going to actually burn anything down. Then it says, I will go on all day, hear what I say, I have a prayer to pray, which is just a poetic way of saying, listen to the next part of what I'm going to say. That's really all this was. So, this whole song was just him getting out this frustration, getting out everything he wanted to say. How he wrote a completely nonsensical song where he basically told you, he said, when you started off the song, it was, I'm being insincere, I've said nothing so far, it doesn't matter what I say, the only thing that matters is that the hook brings you back. That's how you write a successful song, that's how you write a popular song that becomes a hit, is you bring everybody in with the hook. And people don't notice or don't even see the lyrics that you're writing about. So this is very much about his frustration with the state of popular music and his own take on that. So then closing out the final verse, it says, and when I'm feeling stuck and need a buck, in other words, he knows how to make financial success, he's feeling stuck, he needs a buck, I don't rely on luck, because the hook brings you back. I ain't telling you no lie. The hook, on that you can rely. So what he's doing here is he's saying, hey, I know how to make money, And in all honesty, probably on Runaround and Hook, he probably had, the band probably made more money on those two songs than they did on everything else in their career. Um, that probably made the band financially successful. I'm sure that they still receive some royalties till this day. There's, they probably have contracts with companies that own the radio stations and stuff with the rights to the music and stuff. So those two songs are in the rotation. They get royalties out of that. And so, and this was, 4 was their best-selling album. And in case you missed it, it's their 4th album coming out in 1994. So he literally just said, or whoever decided, the band as a whole or the lead singer or whatever, just said, yeah, just call the album 4. 4th album, 1994. It's just 4. They just yeah. That's it. No creative titles like you see with their other stuff. Travelers and Thieves and Save His Soul. Nothing like that. It's just 4. That's it. Just call the album 4. And so they had this successful songs of Run Around the 4. And of course they continued to put out more albums and more music later on. They never returned to having any sort of commercial success ever again. They put on Straight On Till Morning and Bridge were their next couple of albums. But they were never able to, or maybe they just never wanted to, duplicate the success of the album 4. Anyway, they knew what they were doing, and they made a lot of money off of it, and that was the purpose of doing it. So, they did it by proving that they could if they wanted to. So I just thought it's an interesting little story behind the album 4, with some hit songs Runaway and Hook. Or Runaround and Hook. So, I just hope you guys all find that interesting, my little psychological breakdown of the band Blues Traveler, particularly focusing on the songs Runaround and Hook. So don't give me the runaround. Subscribe to my channel. Like, share, all that stuff, because at the end of the day, I gotta bring in viewers and maybe make a buck or two myself. And I'm not gonna rely on luck. So maybe I'll just write my own little 3-minute ditty. Dragonfire out.